couple of weeks ago, I put out a video on this, which is a diesel heater that I use to heat my rooftop tent in the winter. Since putting the video out, it has gained a lot of attention and there have been hundreds of comments, a lot of questions, and some really good suggestions and constructive feedback too. And in fact, some of the suggestions I've had on this have been so good that I do plan on remaking this. Not because there's anything wrong with this, but this was kind of my budget version. I spent about $150 to create this. And I want to do a more self-contained version with some better features in it. So I'm looking to spend closer to about $300. So look for that coming out in the next couple of weeks. I've also had 2 common questions come up again and again, so I'm going to address those in the video today, and 3 suggestions that I've seen a lot of. The first suggestion was to do with the fuel pump. I actually made a mistake. I was wrong. I'm going to blame the instructions for that. The way the instructions sounded is that the fuel pump should have been mounted horizontally, but if I'd done my research, I would have found that actually that's a terrible idea, and you want it angled up at about 45 degrees, so the fuel flow is going up. So I fixed that already. The other 2 suggestions, one of them was to do with using a plastic box. I had a lot of people tell me that that's a horrible idea. So we're going to look at that today. And then the other suggestion was to have a return air. Now I didn't want to return air just because I wanted fresh air, but a lot of people said that that would increase efficiency. So that's something else we'll look at. So I'll take this outside and let's set it up. So hooked up to the laptop, I've got 4 sensors. Top one is this little temperature sensor that's sitting here in the shade, so you've got ambient temperature. This next one is sitting in the ductwork, the output, so this should get hot. The third one down and the fourth one down is sitting back here, so we're going to put these in the box. And I figured what I'd do is I put one at the bottom and one at the top. So I'm going to put this one down the side, so it's sitting at the bottom there. And then this one I'm just going to sit right on top of the unit there. Close the box, seal it up. I'm going to plug it in and get started. Now the Jackery, just for reference, is at 100% right now. So we'll see what it goes to as this thing starts up. The screen is really difficult to see in the sunlight. So I powered it on. You can see as the glow plug warms up, it's pulling quite a lot of power. I think this is probably around 8 amps that it's pulling. And then this is the only time that actually smells, is when the glow plug's starting up. There's a lot of exhaust. Get the dog away from the exhaust. It smells really bad. So the fuel pump's just started up. With the fuel pump angled up now, the sound's actually a lot better. Probably barely hear it. He does not like the smell of it. So something you probably didn't see is that the temperature inside the box is already slightly higher. It's sunny out here, it's a black box. Before I even turned it on, this was a little higher than the ambient temperatures out here. Got some warmth coming through here. So you can see the second temperature starting to go up. All right, so the hot air coming out here has warmed up. You've got the air coming out just over 140 degrees, so if you're in your tent, that's going to keep you nice and warm. Ambient temperature is 65, and then inside the box it's around 73 degrees. The glow plug has turned off, and in warming up it's used 3% of my Jackery battery, and now it's sitting at pulling about half an amp, just over half an amp. So barely anything, and this thing should last for ages. So I'm going to leave this setup out here running for an hour. Come back and see how everything's looking. All right, so 1 hour later, let's check our temperatures. We have got 62 outside, 182 coming out the hot air here. That's quite warm. It's very warm. This is still comfortable, well, warm to the touch. I can hold my hand on it. And then inside the box, looking at the top of the box, 87 degrees. And then at the bottom of the box, 84 degrees. When we started the hour timer, it was at 97% battery, and now it has dropped down to 94%. So losing about 3% an hour just to maintain the heat. After running for an hour, inside the box is still pretty cool.
It's warm to the touch up this end of the heater, but everything else is cool to the touch. I think just the air flowing through it helps keep it cool.
So what we learned is that air coming out of this was 120 degrees Fahrenheit higher than ambient air temperature, and that's on this heater's lowest setting. I feel as though having a return air duct is not really necessary. Maybe on the coldest of nights you might want it, but I kind of like the idea of having fresh air brought into the tent. That way you're not increasing the humidity in there. The heat inside the box wasn't really an issue either. It was only around 15 to 20 degrees above ambient air temperature, and that's on a pretty warm day in February, in fact especially warm day for February, with this sitting in direct sunlight, a black box sitting in sunlight. The only concern I really have is the exhaust. This is the only part that gets really hot. I did try to make sure that none of it was directly contacting the plastic box. I appreciate that I've got a metal clamp here with a metal screw that can conduct some of the heat, so I'll take that off in a second and take a look. And we'll also remove this base plate here and kind of see how the exhaust being close to the plastic there has affected it, if at all. Diesel fuel is particularly gross, so I'm not really looking forward to this part of it. Alright, so this is the one part of it that I'm not sure about, because I do have a plastic box quite close to the heat of the exhaust, but to me, there's no sign of any heat damage here. I'll give you a little close-up so you can see. So there you have it. Other than the fuel pump, I've had no problems with this. Heat is obviously not an issue inside the box or on the bottom of the box. The only other questions I've had are regarding the efficiency and the environmental impact. Now, in terms of efficiency, this thing will run easily for 12 hours on a gallon of diesel. And for the environmental impact, I know diesel burns, it's a lot dirtier than propane. But when you consider how much propane you have to go through to run something like a buddy heater, if you're using these little bottles, probably 3 or 4 of these for a night on low. And I feel as I don't know what the impact is in terms of the amount of propane you burn versus the amount of diesel you burn. But if you're going through 3 or 4 of these, that's a lot of waste. Where with diesel, I just have to refill the tank. If you have any other questions, make sure you let me know, drop them in the comments, and I'll try and get back to all of them. I'm going to continue taking this apart, so make sure you subscribe and you see what's coming next with this build.